Welcome back to Paul's Politics. Later in the show, we have Lily Cooper talking about her love life. Paul's Politics is getting very loose women, isn't it? Really. But first, we'll talk about something more important. The age-old question, it comes up every year about the Grand National. We ask whether horse racing should be banned. There were 2 horses died at Aintree on, I think it was on Saturday. Yesterday, or perhaps the day before. Friday, I think it was, yeah. We've got Molly French-Gerard. Now, we know you're a feminist, but are you an animal rights activist?
Yeah, definitely I am.
Oh,
yeah.
So horse racing should be completely banned?
There's different kinds of horse racing, firstly. So there's like flat racing, which is fine.
Like the dogs, like the greyhounds.
Yeah, but then also the problem is with like jumping and racing is that basically the horses are bred and they're broken in too young. They're bred so their hearts are like too big for their bodies and they die really young. And obviously there's dangers of them just like breaking their necks over jumps, things like that. And I think like, it's interesting you said like animal rights activists, and it's still because we look back at some of our behaviour that we're really shocked at what people used to do in the past. Yeah. And I think that maybe people will look back at our treatment of animals today, and that will be what they'll be shocked at, of how we've treated like things like horse racing.
Because it's second nature, isn't it? If you're involved in horse racing, as some members of my family are, gambling on it, you don't think about the poor horses.
Yeah, you don't almost. But I think we should reflect on it.
What are horses useful for?
But it's the same thing as like.
A lot of things.
Not meat, obviously.
I don't.
We don't want them for their meat.
No. But it's true, but as well, like things like if you look at crafts, that's trying to change and like become more ethical.
So you're saying that Rob was talking yesterday about jumps.
Yeah, I mean
that's the problem, isn't it?
I never ever bet on the horses. I think it's
immoral.
As it is at the moment. It's so unethical. It's horrible. I understand. I get the point that horses love to race.
That's
I
it.
Understand they love racing on a flat straight, and maybe a few like small jumps that they can actually jump over and see over. But when it gets to the point where they're running, how long is the Grand National?
Oh, I don't know.
And at the end, these horses can't even stand. It's disgusting.
About the Grand National as well. Tell us about why you think the jumps are so ridiculous.
I mean, it's a joke where I know the horses are trained to jump over these huge jumps, but where 2 men can't even bloody look over these jumps. Well, maybe they're not that high, but it dips as well on the other side. It's lower than the other side. So these horses...
Yeah, it's almost a way of like tricking them into like falling or like...
And you see it sometimes. They fall head over heels and break their neck.
Do you think anyone enjoys that?
Oh, a lot of people enjoy it, I'm sure.
What are you on about? Of course they don't.
Well, I've spoken to a lot of people I know on campus. They absolutely love the sport, and they tell me and swear at me when I say it's an inhumane sport. It should be stopped.
Molly, what do you think about... do you think it's the same as fox hunting, this issue?
I don't think it is because it's not on such a a big scale. And the way I think what's so disturbing about, but I don't like fox hunting because I don't like the way they like people because people use the argument about exactly.
It's hoorah Henrys.
They use the argument foxes they like do this to our chickens and they're destructive and it's like I don't mind if farmers have a problem and maybe shoot them, but it's this whole dressing up and turning it into like this bloodthirsty sport.
And a lot of there was a survey. Obviously you can look at the statistics. Who actually was in the survey and who was asked, but a lot of farmers really did not support fox hunting, and foxes aren't actually a problem to their livestock because they prepare for it. There's special fencing.
If we're going to cull things, we should do it in a more organised way and a more like it just
we do
to make it into a sport.
We do, but we do have a fox problem now, don't we? Not just about horse. I mean,
but no.
Will we have a horse problem if they don't race? Will they be roaming the streets and eating from our bins and killing babies like the foxes?
Well, there's one close to home in Bromley, where I live.
A horse?
A baby was fingers were ripped off by a fox. But it's a different issue.
You have to be so gory.
It happened. Open window, fox got in, ripped baby's fingers off. Awful.
I think things like we should look at, like when we're looking at animal abuse, we should look at like factory farming because that's on such a massive scale.
Yeah.
And so I think we shouldn't like become too fixated on
Anyway, we'll leave.
Gotta eat.
I'm not sure about horse racing personally. I think makes it more exciting to have the higher jumps. On the other hand, it is rather cruel.
Exciting.
Is the horse man's servant, or is man the servant of the horse? That's. Or are they equal? Equality. We're going for equality again. Oh, that's a good idea. Before we move on to love, I know Lily Cooper is impatiently pacing in the studio behind me, in front of me actually. But before we move on to that, I think because we've got Molly French-Gerard here, who loves talking about feminism. We're going to talk about gender in general. Rob Frost, you've been really. I'm going to read your text now. I received a text this morning from Rob Frost, who's not a friend but just an associate on the show, and he said that. This is what he said. He said, "I'm just listening to a radio debate," and he said, "Gender fascism, where the colour pink is being forced onto girls, when there is no need, because it's not natural and totally barbaric to the upbringing of girls. When is it all going to end?" This is one of those rants that just go, we might as well all look the same, do the same things. It really is just so silly now. Whilst the next story, we won't talk about the next story about the poor mother. That was a bit dark.
No, but it did lead on. It was
Here we
hilarious.
go. Whilst the next story was about this poor mother who was picked by this charming man when she was young with 2 children. Once married, he controlled every aspect of her life, forcing her to leave multiple jobs when he felt he was losing control. He would use her kids against her, control her money. She had no friends, and then eventually he became violent towards her. This is where the fight for gender equality needs to lie, not over pink Lego, action men, and Barbie dolls. So basically, a Telegraph column.
Telegraph, journalist. I think it's freelance journalist. He wrote a piece. He was on Radio 5 this morning and talking about how there should be no pink Lego because why should we just aim pink at girls? But at the end of the day, Lego knows what its market wants, and girls want pink.
Do they want pink?
I think
Molly?
that it's interesting that you see the 2 issues as absolutely separate. Like there's issues like toys, and because I think one of the problems is that this idea of like female roles is ingrained. It is ingrained at a very young age.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think that I don't look at little children with like dolls and think, oh, they shouldn't have them. I think there should be a choice. But I think we have to question like, are we pushing like so like when you see like women with who are given like tea sets and dolls, is it like
preparing them to be housewives?
Is that a problem of them like being like told this is what your job are, and boys have guns and
it's a cultural thing. I wonder if you look at other countries such as in Scandinavia, Sweden.
In Sweden, there's this new thing where it's actually they're not allowed to separate women and like because I had this thing where I wanted to buy a hat or something, I don't know, a piece of clothing for a baby
on your holidays.
That's what you do. When baby's born, you're like, here you go, piece of clothing.
Okay, yeah.
And so I went in, and it was in Gap, Baby Gap, and there was literally a divide between
placement.
all pink for boys and all pink for girls and all blue for boys. And I think that is like it didn't make me feel like really like there shouldn't be this complete divide. And if a girl wants to wear pink, that's fine, but it shouldn't be expected that girls should wear pink.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I mean, I'm no neuroscientist, but girls and boys' brains do.
Our neuroscientist is wasting his money in Amsterdam right now. Hope you're not listening, Dan.
But girls do naturally usually like pink. They like pink.
No. I disagree with that. That's.
And they love.
There's a big neuroscience question to ask there.
This pink Lego set was all about like it's called Lego Social or something like that. And it's all
so we're not indoctrinating
But
girls.
we are though, because if we're starting from the young, like a really young age, if you just buy them pink outfit, that your brain constantly learns. So if you're wearing stuff that's pink, you're more likely
always
to want to
need to be feminine.
Do you want to buy stuff that's pink later? But then I think that why does it?
Well, then again, my favourite colour is red because my dad's a mad Man United fan.
So you saw that all the time when you were young.
Yeah.
If your dad was constantly wearing like his Man,
he painted the house red.
Has it affected your life?
He's mental.
Has the colour red affected your life? And
well, I don't think it. No, that's it, Rob. Okay, it hasn't.
Yeah.
Very, very trivial matter.
No, but
Pink doesn't affect a girl's
I don't
life.
think that. Yeah, I think that's true. But then you also get like these. Like, because my brother had when he was young, he had a pink pram with a doll in it, which he really loved. And he used to push it around. And somebody actually came up to my mum and, had a go at her for buying it for my brother. Because she said it was, disgusting and he shouldn't be doing it. And so things like, it's attitudes like that where... and I don't have any problem if a girl wants to choose a pink dress or a pink Lego or anything like that, but it's just this idea of they have to. So I think we have to get a balance.
I think...
Lego aren't forcing him to buy it.
I think
no,
this
they're
debate...
Not, but, if they're expected...
They're just giving them the
I think this debate is rubbish. I'll tell you why. Because it's all wrapped in the material world, we all have to buy things. Why don't we just all go out, take all our clothes off and go out in the woods, like back in the olden days,
honest,
and just be like our ancestors, like the apes.
Paul's fantasies are coming out right now.